Costin here with a discussion about Isabella von Carstein and why she actually might be the single best legendary lord of the vampire counts as a whole. Obviously, if we look at the diplomacy screen, Vlad is the faction leader according to the screen right here. But there is a difference, and a fairly substantial difference, between Vlad and Isabella in terms of how they play out on the campaign. And usually, if I'm looking to play a campaign as Vlad or Isabella, I'll usually pick Isabella for very good reasons that have to do with her faction effects, her lord skill line, as well as the dynamics of having Vlad as a legendary hero as opposed to a legendary lord. So let's take a look at it. First off, it's important to note that Drakenhof has a landmark that allows you to recruit vampires of shadows and death. So that is the first thing you want to get. And that landmark also increases hero capacity and hero crew rank for vampires. But here's where Isabella starts shining. She has that same unique building she shares with Vlad. Vlad and Isabella have a unique building. It's not strictly that. It's this one, the von Carstein Court Hall, I believe it is. But very importantly, she gets plus hero capacity, plus free for vampires in a campaign. And she gets 25% embedded weapon strength for heroes, or weapon strength 25% for embedded heroes in all her armies. And that is what makes Isabella so strong to begin with, because she will be running around with 5 vampires plus Vlad as a legendary hero. Hopefully Vlad will get a mount in Lords and End Times, because he could definitely use it. A horse would be welcome. But there's more to that. She also, of course, provides, but she'll provide this as a legendary hero anyway, she provides melee attack for vampire heroes and melee defense. This is more useful if you're playing her, because it simply allows you to benefit from more vampires. Like, you'll just get a lot of vampires, and the rest of the army doesn't matter. They will defeat every single foe that you encounter early on. So having that many vampires, having the weapon strength, the melee attack, the melee defense, makes Isabella ridiculous. On top of that, if you're struggling with some fast-moving enemies that, Pistoliers or Outriders, you also benefit Direwolves, Fellbats, and all kinds of different things. And she further increases hero capacity for vampires through her special skill line, as well as reducing vigor loss in a battle, and then further speed. Now, one important note to make about who you pick as a legendary lord. The legendary lord is, of course, going to go for the skills that give you army benefits, or to some extent, right? You are going to want to get Aura of Supremacy. You may want Children of the Night for character experience of heroes in army and upkeep. So you're not necessarily going to focus so much on the melee combat capability, whereas a legendary hero, there is very little reason to not do so. And this is where having Vlad as a legendary hero as opposed to a legendary lord is extremely beneficial. Because with Vlad, you still get the Coven of Undeath for all armies faction-wide. You still get diplomatic relations with the Empire and his special skill line. You still get all these kind of things like base weapon damage and weapon strength. And this stacks with Isabella's own personal benefits. But here's the really big kicker in a campaign over here. If you use Vlad as a legendary hero, you'll start with both of his items unlocked. So both the Blood Drinker and the von Carstein ring. So you can even throw Vlad into a battle and he'll recover very, very quickly from said battle. Assuming he even dies, but he's quite capable of defeating a lot of foes on his own. The one you pick as a legendary lord will not start with the item, you'll have to unlock it in a quest. And in essence, it is just much better in a campaign to have to earn the Blood Chalice than to have to earn 2 other items. Of course, you are going to suffer in terms of money because quest battles are useful in terms of giving you a significant amount of cash. But at the same time, just 5,000 or 7,000 really when you account for post-battle loot is a good bargain considering the level of power that we're talking about here in this particular campaign with Isabella. And that is why I would firmly recommend that if you're looking to really play a Vampire Counts campaign, that you go check out Isabella von Carstein, if you obviously have access to it. Now, the reason her mechanics are so strong on her own is because it was based on a Warhammer 1 design decision that you had to unlock Vlad later on, and he was difficult to unlock, so they wanted to give people a reason to play Isabella versus always picking Vlad. And I believe she came later, if I remember correctly. What is worth mentioning with regards to the vampires is that beyond their magical capability, they also give you casualty replenishment. So having a bunch of them means that you will get to the casualty replenishment cap relatively quickly. Further, they're quite strong in battle, being able to get things like the hunger and terms of melee capability as opposed to magical capability. You can use them, obviously for that purpose, they are a hybrid hero, but their main benefit is going to be really going in there and melee, getting stuck in, having the mobility of the Hellsteed in battle, and winning. And this is, by the way, a benefit to Isabella. Vlad is definitely tough as nails in terms of battles, especially with the Von Carstein ring, giving him that physical resistance. Absolutely so. One shouldn't underestimate just how ridiculous Vlad can be in terms of surviving his own battle situation, especially when you consider Mesmering Aura as well, or Aura of Dark Grandeur with a penalty to enemy melee attack. So he's difficult to kill in melee because of that situation. But Isabella has battlefield mobility with the Hellsteed. And sometimes, or a lot of the time, especially when we're talking about sieges, having that kind of mobility does pay off. And from my experience, the Legendary Lord is usually going to level up faster than the Legendary Hero, though I could be wrong on that. At one point, he just stopped caring about it, but I think leveling Isabella up faster than Vlad actually brings you a lot more benefits. I mean, you could even go with magic, though really, if you're using her as a Legendary Lord, I would firmly recommend going down the magic tree. Of course, there are some things you want to get, like Curse of Undeath, for instance, potentially, though you mostly want to focus on just some of the blue skill line, Aura of Supremacy, because it's useful, then special skill line, really. Like, I would spend 1 point in Restless Dead, 1 point in Aura of Supremacy, 3 points in the melee skill line, so Hunger, Dark Knight, and then wait until level 12 in order to get all of these special skills at once, because it's kind of a shame that the special skill line is usually locked behind these levels. I think Creative Assembly should consider reforming how it works, because locking so many useful skills just beyond a blank level 12 in so many cases creates situations like, okay, do I want to spend skills every level, or do I save once I've spent 5? Do I save so I can unlock the whole damn thing? Because unlocking the whole damn thing in most cases ends up being very, very powerful in a campaign. I mean, you just consider Isabella. You go from not having it to having leadership, melee attack, armor piercing, hunger for direwolves, fellbats, hero capacity for vampires, vigor loss reduction, storm of night, and then for own army, speed, wayfarer, and discourage effect for her, like attacks cause discourage. That is a huge power spike that occurs very often in many different campaigns, not just Isabella. In terms of the campaign path, you are pushed towards dealing with Altdorf, though and defeating Reichland. Though you can always just play the diplomatic game, take your time in the Empire, because the Empire is not necessarily the thing you want to focus on as quickly as possible. I mean, you can, but you could also, but that would mean ignoring the issue that is Ungrim, because you see, if you rush for Altdorf, chances are he's going to barrel from the east and attack you if he wins against Azak. You could secure some of the settlements here, like maybe take Tempelhof, and then force march your way to Grom Peak. The reason, or you could recruit a second army, use your initial army to secure the initial territory, and send the second army with a bunch of vampire heroes to take Grom Peak. Though it depends. Like, I would personally just take Tempelhof and then go rush for it. And if the AI over here takes one settlement back, then yeah. But that would give you Ungrim as a vassal, and then you can decide, okay, do I want Forgrim as a vassal or not? And when you have vassals, because that's one of the strengths of the vampire counts, when you do have vassals, it creates this dynamic where you can really secure yourself, because their faction strength is going to be added to yours. If there is any criticism, I would say, in this campaign, and in Vlad's campaign as well, is that you should be able to win through pure diplomacy. But you do need to you do need to destroy Reichland, which is quite a shame, because it wasn't really so much of a conflict between Vlad and Karl Franz, if anything, because obviously it's based on Vlad's situation. But if anything, Vlad helped out Karl Franz several times in the lore. Isabella, and this is going to be the big question mark, what are they going to do for Isabella in Lords of the End Times? Because she did have a fairly big role in there. We know Vlad's going to be a Mortarch. How is that going to affect the campaign? How is that going to affect things going forward? We just don't know. Costin, signing out. Stay tuned for more. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. I'll see you on the next one.